someday my dream will come. It never will. Suddenly you are old. Because you were never gonna do it anyway. Being hypnotized by daytime TV for the rest of your life. What the fuck are you still doing driving a cab?
The movie begins in LAX airport, where herds of people are coming and going. A man named Vincent walks with purpose, black leather bag in his hand. His silver-gray suit is just as immaculate as his hairdo. He bumps into a man carrying an identical black bag, who drops it upon their collision. Behind the seemingly mundane interaction, the two men had intentionally swapped their bags in a swift and practiced move. The transient crowd noticed nothing, and Vincent blurs back into it, making his way out of the airport. Elsewhere in the city, a different kind of hustle and bustle happens in a cab depot. One of the cab drivers, Max Durocher, escapes the overwhelming audioscape by sliding into the driver's seat of his assigned taxi cab. He meticulously prepares his environment before his shift, making sure it's clean and adding his personal touch by putting a postcard of the Maldives on the visor above him. He follows his routine of 12 years, driving through the streets of LA. When even his passengers bring a part of their chaotic lives into his cab,
what do you want me to do?
He takes a look at the Maldives postcard to get a short moment of inner peace. His evening proceeds with a typical rhythm of fares until a woman named Annie Farrell slides into his back seat. She seems to be handling something important over the phone, stressfully talking into it to arrange some work requirements. She provides a specific route downtown, and Max, with quiet confidence, proposes a faster one. Annie doesn't seem to agree, but Max places a bet that if he's wrong, then this ride will be free of charge. It seems that in the end, Max's route is indeed faster, and Annie admits her defeat.
Go ahead, say it. Whoever was right, I was wrong.
As Max navigates the glowing streets, he makes conversation with her. He correctly deduces her profession as a prosecutor from her focused demeanor, and she seems impressed by his perception. She wonders why he's even driving a cab for a living. He shares his dream of starting a limousine company called Island Limos, and for a few minutes, he is not just a driver, but the entrepreneur he envisions himself to be. Annie, in turn, confesses her deep-seated anxiety about the following day's trial. She thinks the case she's set to represent in trial tomorrow is not good enough, and she's afraid that the jury will think she's incompetent. However, she assures partly to Max and partly to herself that she'll pull through after reviewing the files all night. When they arrive at her destination, Max, moved by their conversation, offers her his postcard of the Maldives. He advises her to look at it and visualize herself there, a small getaway to ease her tension. Touched by the gesture, she pays the fare and exits, only to return a moment later to give him her business card. A smile lingers on Max's face as he pulls away. The next fare to open his door is Vincent. The initial ride is deceptively mundane. Vincent provides an address in a rough part of town. Then he begins asking questions that are probing yet detached, asking Max about his life and work. Max gives the same answer as he did to Annie, but he refuses to elaborate further that the cab is temporary, just a means to an end.
I'm not in this for the long haul. This is just temporary.
They reach a dilapidated apartment building. Before hopping off, Vincent proposes a deal to Max. He claims that he would need to make a series of 5 stops to meet friends before his 6 a.m. flight. He offers Max $600 in cash to be his exclusive driver for the night. Initially, Max refuses because it's against the company's policy, but Vincent keeps insisting. The amount offered is significant too, a boost to his savings for starting up Island Limos. Against his better judgment, Max accepts a $300 down payment. Vincent disappears into the building. Max waits in his cab, the crisp $100 bills in his hand. He circles the block and parks in the rear alley behind the building, the city's ambient hum his only company, as he finally has some time to devour his packed dinner. After some time, the quiet is abruptly, violently shattered. Something drops from above and onto the roof of his cab with a deafening thud. Max stumbles out, his mind reeling, unable to process the horrific scene. Vincent emerges from the building, his expression unreadable but his composure utterly intact. Max, looking from the corpse to the man who hired him, understands the horrifying truth. Vincent aims his gun at Max and instructs him to open the trunk and help him hide the dead body. Max's protests die in his throat under the threat, so he helps Vincent lift the dead weight of the first target into the trunk. Vincent then calmly pours bottled water over the bloodstains on the roof and hood, wiping away the evidence. Max, still in a state of shock, offers Vincent to just take the cab from him. He also offers back the money he was given, anything to be released from this waking nightmare. Vincent's laugh is dry and devoid of humor. He orders Max back into the driver's seat to continue driving him to 4 more locations, as they previously agreed upon.
You promised not to tell anybody, right?
Yeah.
Get in the fucking car.
As they drive away, the official narrative of the night begins to form elsewhere. LAPD Detective Ray Fanning arrives at the apartment building Max and Vincent just left. He knocks on the dead man's front door, and after a few knocks, his suspicion rises as the door is already ajar. In the victim's ransacked apartment, he notes the broken window and the empty street below where Max's cab was parked earlier. His attention is drawn to a patch of pavement. It's damp and unnaturally clean, suggesting a deliberate attempt to wash something away. Fanning's instincts as a detective tells him that something is very wrong with this situation. Inside Max's yellow cab, Vincent provides the address for his second target. Max is now an unwilling accomplice, his mind reeling by the knowledge of a dead body in his trunk. Vincent attempts a twisted form of consolation, framing his work as a necessary evil. The men he is targeting are criminals, witnesses in a federal case. He is, in his own mind, merely taking out the trash. However, Vincent's nihilistic excuse offers no comfort to Max, who sees only the blood on his hands. The situation escalates when the flashing lights of a patrol car appear behind them. The reason for the stop is the shattered windshield, which is against traffic safety rules. Vincent leans forward, whispering a command for Max to handle the situation if he doesn't want more innocent people to die in Vincent's hands. Max tries his best to feign composure as he speaks to the officers. When the cops ask him why his windshield is shattered, he lies about accidentally hitting a crossing deer. The officers are rightfully skeptical. The law requires the vehicle to be impounded for such extensive damage. To do so, they must first inspect the trunk. Max knows he's screwed if they do so, and Vincent continues to threaten him to resolve the problem. As they are about to step out of the car, a dispatch call reports a nearby shooting, demanding immediate backup. The officers let them go, telling Max to immediately go to his depot after dropping Vincent off.
Have a nice night, sir.
They finally arrive at the next stop. Vincent takes further precautions, securing Max's wrist to the steering wheel with a zip tie so he doesn't run away. Suddenly, the cab radio crackles. Max's boss, Lenny, is demanding an explanation for the damaged vehicle report he had gotten from the cops. Lenny wants Max to pay for the damaged car. For some reason, it pisses off Vincent, who takes control of the conversation. He insists that Max isn't responsible to pay the damages since the car is under insurance, and even threatens to report Lenny to the authorities. He then forces Max to deliver a crude, scripted insult, something he knows the driver actually wants to say.
It was an accident. I'm not liable.
Tell him, he pulls his shit again, you're gonna stick this yellow cab up his fat ass.
The next time you pull any shit, I'm gonna have to stick this yellow cab
Up your fat ass.
After dealing with Lenny, Vincent wastes no more time to execute his second kill. While he's inside, Max, tethered to the wheel, makes a desperate bid for help. He repeatedly honks the horn and flashes the brake lights. His actions attract the attention of 2 young men, but they are not saviors. Seeing his predicament as an opportunity, they rob him of his wallet and seize Vincent's briefcase from the passenger seat. As they retreat with their stolen items, Vincent returns. He assesses the situation in an instant.
Case? Yeah, it is. Why, you want it back?
He retrieves his briefcase and cuts Max free from the steering wheels. As they stop to fill up some gas, Vincent reminds him to not seek any help, as it'll lead to more victims. Meanwhile, Detective Fanning's investigation intensifies as CSI and other detectives inspect the crime scene. The first victim is a key informant in the case against a drug cartel leader named Felix Reyes Torrena, whom he had worked with for a while. They inspect the cab's damp parking spot, littered with blood-stained glass shards. Witness statements mention a yellow cab. The details trigger Fanning's memory of a similar unsolved case in Oakland where a cab driver was the suspected perpetrator of a murder-suicide. The detective on that case had always believed a third party, a professional killer, was involved. He thinks something similar is happening here, but another cop dismisses the idea. With time to spare before the next appointment, Vincent directs Max to a jazz club under the pretense of buying him a drink to calm down. The stop is surreal. They sit down to watch the club's owner, Daniel, play jazz with other great musicians. Vincent asks a waitress to relay his invitation for Daniel to join them for a drink. Seeing Vincent acting somewhat like a normal human for the first time during the night disarms Max to a degree. The killer passionately asks about jazz anecdotes, and Daniel shares one about playing with the legendary Miles Davis. The piece is short-lived, as Vincent reveals that Daniel is his third target, another witness against Felix.
I just when I thought you were a cool guy.
I'm a cool guy.
Let's just play a little jazz. Come on.
Improvise. That's funny.
Max pleads for Daniel's life, citing the good vibes from not even 5 minutes ago. Like a predator toying with his prey, Vincent offers Daniel a chance. He asks a simple trivia question about Miles Davis, a detail a true collaborator would know. Daniel answers half correctly, but not well enough for Vincent, who shoots him without hesitation. The abrupt violence sends Max stumbling into an alley where he retches, physically and emotionally overwhelmed. The cab radio buzzes again. Max's mother has been calling his boss, worried because he has broken his nightly routine of visiting her at the hospital. For Vincent, this deviation from routine is a tactical problem because it may draw unwanted suspicion. So, he insists on going to the hospital with Max, despite the hostage's reluctance. In a bizarre display of emotional capacity, Vincent purchases flowers for her. As they ride the elevator, they share the space with Detective Fanning, who's heading towards the hospital morgue following his own leads. The two sides are none the wiser, oblivious to their connection. Fanning proceeds to the morgue, where the coroner brings up his suspicions that the night's victims were all killed by the same professional hitman. He identifies the second victim as a lawyer connected to the Felix case and understands he is dealing with a coordinated assassination plot.
Guy, both done by the same shooter, I think. And this guy, he's shooting tight groups too, right?
Upstairs, Vincent meets Max's mother, Ida, who's been staying in the hospital for a while. He amps up his charm and claims to be Max's successful friend. During their conversation, Vincent learns that Max has been lying to his mother. He has been pretending to already own his limousine company. Vincent seems to use this knowledge as another leverage against Max. The cumulative pressure finally causes something in Max to break. As they leave, he quickly grabs Vincent's briefcase and flees. A desperate chase ensues through the hospital corridors and down stairwells. Max bursts onto a pedestrian overpass above a freeway, Vincent closing in fast. With a final surge of defiance, Max flings the briefcase into the speeding traffic below, destroying the contents of Vincent's hit list that was stored in a tablet. The atmosphere in the cab is now fundamentally altered. Max has ceased to be a passive victim. Vincent, though angered by the loss of his data, seems to possess a new, grudging respect for the cab driver. He needs to reacquire his target list from his employer, Felix. Since Vincent's identity must remain concealed, he devises a new, audacious plan. He instructs Max to drive to a nightclub, El Rodeo. He grabs Max's wallet and instructs him to enter the club, impersonate Vincent, and retrieve the backup data from the cartel boss. Simultaneously, an FBI team led by Agent Pedrosa, with Fanning advising, has the club under surveillance. The feds have taken over the case, much to Fanning's dismay. Fanning spots Max's distinctive, damaged cab on their monitors and identifies him. Inside, Max, operating on pure adrenaline, enters a world of extreme danger. He is searched and escorted to a private booth where he meets Felix Reyes-Terrena, Vincent's employer, and a cartel boss. Max's initial attempts at bravado are shaky, but when challenged by a suspicious Felix, he taps into channeling Vincent's cocksure attitude and audacity. He fabricates a story about detecting authorities on his tail and destroying the list to protect Felix and his operation.
That's why I tossed the list. To protect your Hermes Fascinabla ass.
The bluff is successful. Felix provides Max with a USB drive containing the information for the last two targets. Max walks out of the club, his transformation from prey to performer complete. The drive contains the locations of the fourth target, a gangster named Peter Lim, and the last mystery victim. Max and Vincent are on their way to the next scene. The FBI and police, now aware of the systematic elimination of their witnesses, converge on the nightclub where Lim is located. The feds believe that Max is their target, a hitman disguised as a cab driver. However, Fanning still thinks there's someone else behind the killings. All the night's players are now on a collision course. The club, Fever, is packed with people enjoying their night. Vincent brings Max in to prevent detection from Felix's men. Vincent and Max arrive as the feds set up a perimeter. Fanning and the LAPD are also present, tasked with eliminating the hitman they believe to be Max. Inside, Vincent moves through the mayhem with tactical grace. Somehow, Max had successfully separated himself from Vincent as the hitman focused on his job. The feds find Max, and somehow, a shootout starts when Lim's men spot the armed officers. Using the chaos, Vincent systematically dismantles Lim's security detail while simultaneously evading both the police and Felix's assassins. Detective Fanning locates Max in the wild crowd and attempts to guide him to safety, telling Max that he believes he's innocent. As they near an exit, Vincent intercepts them. He shoots Fanning multiple times, killing the one man who had come close to unraveling his plan. He retrieves Max, and they escape in the ensuing confusion. Max is on the verge of his breaking point. He confronts Vincent's nihilism, and Vincent, in turn, brutally dissects Max's life of quiet desperation and unrealized dreams. The verbal assault strikes a nerve, acting not as an insult, but as a catalyst for the driver. Max realizes the truth in Vincent's critique of his passivity.
Someday my dream will come. It never will. Suddenly you are old, because you were never gonna do it anyway. Being hypnotized by daytime TV for the rest of your life. What the fuck are you still doing driving a cab? Slow down.
This makes him step on the gas, rocketing the cab through the empty city streets. He is no longer driving for Vincent. He is driving for himself, for every risk he never took.
Slow down.
He says that he doesn't have anything to lose anyway. With a final, deliberate act of rebellion, he crashes the cab, sending it flipping onto the empty street. Hearing police sirens approaching, Vincent escapes the wreckage and disappears. As a patrolling officer pulls a dazed Max from the driver's seat and discovers the body in the trunk, Max's gaze falls upon the tablet screen, still glowing amidst the debris. It displays the profile of the fifth and final target, Annie Farrell. All the fear and paralysis of the night are burned away, replaced by a singular protective purpose.
Put down the gun! Stop moving!
He overpowers the officer, cuffs him, and runs. Grabbing a bystander's phone,
Come on!
he races to the top of a parking building to get a signal and calls Annie. Watching her work overnight through the office window, she finally picks up just as Vincent enters her high-rise office building. Max tries to explain the grave situation.
He's what?
Kill you. He's coming to kill you. He's already killed witnesses. He's coming to kill you.
It takes some convincing for her to finally believe Max. From his elevated vantage point, he can see Vincent moving through her office. Thankfully, she's on a different floor, in the law library. He directs her movements, trying to get her to safety. Vincent, realizing she is being guided by Max, cuts the power to the floor, plunging it into darkness. Max's phone dies. He sprints toward the building, shoots out the glass lobby doors, and begins his ascent. Annie navigates the darkened, silent library while Vincent's shadow looms. And he finally corners her. Just as he raises his pistol, Max appears.
Why? What are you gonna do about it?
He fires, lightly wounding Vincent's head and allowing Annie to escape.
Max! I met him.
What do you mean you met him?
He said his name is Vincent.
They flee together, with the wounded but still dangerous hitman in pursuit. Their desperate flight leads them into a metro rail station. They board a train as the doors close. But Vincent manages to get onto the same train, walking through the cars behind them. The final confrontation takes place in the moving, dimly lit train car. Max knows they can't run anymore, so he returns fire blindly. Both men empty their weapons into the partition between the cars. Blood starts seeping through his shirt, and he sits down. A random bullet from Max's frantic shooting has pierced his body. Max sits in front of him as the cold-blooded killer takes his final breath.
Hey, Max. A guy gets on the MTA here in LA and dies. Think anybody will notice?